Back on the U.S.-China tech Cold War, I don't know, we're going to have to finalize a term for what we're seeing. Back on that tip, though, Cold Wars are cold because they're not hot. You're not fighting each other directly, you're fighting via proxies. During the Cold War of the 20th century, it mostly played out as a war of influence and propaganda in other countries, largely in the Third World. The US and the USSR competed to get various countries to essentially sign on to their worldview, their global system of economics and politics and what have you. Well, history might at least be rhyming now because China has launched a global data security initiative to counter the US's so-called Clean Network initiative. China is urging countries to oppose what it calls mass surveillance against other states. In other words, as the US has been trying to get countries to sign up to its system of non-Chinese tech in telecoms and other technology, China is now rolling out its own system to counter this. Quoting the Wall Street Journal, China is launching its own initiative to set global standards on data security, countering U.S. efforts to persuade like-minded countries to ring-fence their networks from Chinese technology. Announcing the initiative on Tuesday at a Beijing seminar on global digital governance, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi cited growing risk to data security and what he characterized as efforts to politicize security issues and smear rival countries on technology matters, in an apparent swipe at Washington. To counter such challenges, quote, it is important to develop a set of international rules on data security that reflect the will and respect the interests of all countries, Mr. Wang said, according to a transcript from his speech published by China's foreign ministry. Under its new global initiative on data security, China would call on all countries to handle data security in a, quote, comprehensive, objective, and evidence-based manner, and maintain an open, secure, and stable supply chain for information and communications technology and services, according to a text released by the Chinese Foreign Ministry. It would also urge governments to respect other countries' sovereignty in how they handle data, in line with Beijing's vision of cyber sovereignty, whereby countries exercise full control over their own corners of the internet. The initiative doesn't mention the U.S. or its Clean Network program. Mr. Wang nonetheless made it clear in his announcement that the move comes in response to the White House effort. Quote, bent on unilateral acts, a certain country keeps making groundless accusations against others in the name of Clean Network and use security as a pretext to prey on enterprises of other countries who have a competitive edge, Mr. Wang said, according to the transcript. Quote, such blatant acts of bullying must be opposed and rejected, end quote. Chinese diplomats have approached a number of foreign governments to seek their support for Beijing's initiative, people briefed on the matter said. It wasn't clear how much interest it has garnered so far, end quote. So, since more than 30 countries and territories have signed on to the recently announced U.S. Clean Network program, yes, it does look like the balkanization of the internet is really happening. I will point out that in theory, China's version of the internet, the version where countries have sovereignty over their own data and bits and packets that whiz around inside their borders, is completely antithetical to the original vision of a completely decentralized internet as it was conceived. But one could argue, well, you know what I'm saying. I don't want to live inside a Chinese version of the internet at all, but increasingly the original vision of the internet seems to be dying everywhere, so one wonders if we'll even have a choice someday. Anyway, I'll let smarter people than me editorialize about this. Let's start with a tweet from David Kay. Quote, China has been pushing to internationalize its managed internet for years. Pompeo's Clean Network initiative gives it a boost, but it's still the same. A multilateral smokescreen to protect its own deeply anti-human rights domestic approach, end quote. Here's John McComb, quote, the Chinese Communist Party is the worst electronic surveillance and hacking regime in history. Now that they've cyber-looted the West, they want to close the back door. Choke on the irony. And here's at Colonel Retired John. Let's see who aligns with Chinese data security standards. North Korea, Tonga, Venezuela, Iran, Zimbabwe, and who else, end quote. I'm guessing maybe Russia, but that's me editorializing. Finally, user at BidAtsy, quote, Hannibal Lecter to launch initiative to set global meat labeling rules, end quote.